Welcome to part two of how to do an industry analysis. Remember that in our case, we decided that CoolBox was centrally in the mobile storage and services industry. So, before you watch the rest of this video, make sure that you have a copy of the most current mobile storage services industry report. And my recommendation is that you download it and print a hard copy and have it in front of you, or at least have a split screen where you have the report sitting next to you. All right, so here we go. All right, you need to download the report, and here's what information is contained in that report. And so you can see that there's a definition of the industry, industry at a glance, industry performance, industry outlook, products and markets, the competitive landscape, who the major players are, operating conditions, key statistics, and additional resources. A lot of information here, and this report you'll notice is around 40 or 50 pages long. So it will provide a lot of the information that you'll need to do an industry analysis for marketing. This is an industry analysis that is more general than simply a marketing industry analysis. So, what about the industry size? That was the very first thing that we need to find in our industry analysis, the very first piece of data that we need to calculate. Well, luckily, in our case, it's been calculated by IBISWorld. And so IBISWorld has the 2020 industry size, and they've made this calculation and estimate it to be at $9 billion. Now, why did I say it's estimated? Well, because this report was produced in October of 2020, and that is a number that they have calculated for 2020. And so it is based on all the information that they had up until October when this particular report was released. When we talk about an industry size, we almost always measure it in terms of dollars of revenue, not dollars of profit or number of customers or anything like that. Whenever we can, when we talk about the industry analysis, we like to measure it in dollars of revenue. So what about the industry growth rate? Well, we're in luck again because this has also been calculated by IBISWorld. And you'll notice here that we have two calculations. One is the annual growth rate for the past 5 years, and the other is the annual growth rate going forward for 5 years. And you'll also know over there on the right, they have the annual growth rate, and that little chart is for years. And you'll notice that there's a dip in that chart, and of course that dip, it would be easy for you and I to recognize that dip coincides to the pandemic last year. So, has this industry been affected by the pandemic? Absolutely. But what if you had to calculate the industry growth rate yourself? Well, you would need the past industry revenue data. And IBISWorld provides this in case you want to make some of these calculations. Maybe instead of a 5-year growth rate, you need a 3-year growth rate. Or maybe you want to take the 5 years prior to the pandemic year. There are all kinds of things that you might want to do. So it's important that you somehow find the historical revenues for the industry. And here we have them. I have them going back to 2012. It turns out the IBISWorld has them going back even a little further. But you'll notice that they have a revenue estimate for each year. Now, the previous year's estimates are fairly accurate because they're based on now historical data rather than trying to estimate current or future data. So you can see here that for instance, from 2015 to 2020, the industry grew from $8 billion to $9 billion. That's, $1 billion jump in 5 years. Now, to calculate the 5-year growth rate, you'll need the last 6 years of data. Why 6 years? Well, you need that information to calculate 5 years of growth. Well, so let's see. So let's say you had to calculate that rate yourself. You would have to go back and have to pull down that data for 2015 to 2016, 2016 to 2017, etc., until we got down to 2019, 2020. And of course, by next fall, you'd want to be able to calculate 1920 to 21. But luckily here we have that data right in front of us. So we could calculate the percentage of growth by taking a 5-year average as one large group. And so what this would look like would be we would take the 2020 revenue, which is $9,037,000,000, and subtract $8,038,000,000, and of course that is the 2015 amount. And then we would divide that by the beginning revenue numbers, which is the 2015 revenue number, 8,038,000,000. And we would get 12.43%. We divide that by 5 years, and we get an average growth rate of 2.5%. But if you go back and look at your report, IBISWorld has calculated this at 2.4%, and you've just now calculated it at 2.5%. Well, why is that? Well, it's because IBISWorld makes this calculation on a year-by-year basis and then averages them. So this number is, if the industry is growing, this number is going to be a little lower. Since for each year the denominator is the previous year's revenues. If the market is shrinking, the size of the shrink will actually be a little smaller. So here we have 2015 through 2020, and you'll notice that I have gone in and we have calculated the revenue change each year, and then the growth rate, which will, of course, for instance, for 2016 would be $318 million divided by the beginning number, $8,038,000. Okay, and the total for 5 years is 11.93%, or turns out that it's 2.39%. Rounded up to 2.4%, which is the number that IBISWorld got. So IBISWorld calculates this a little bit differently, and of course the argument is that the second method is typically considered to be more accurate than the first method. But the truth is both methods are okay as long as you understand the assumptions that were made when the calculation was done. That's why it's important when you see a growth rate that's presented as one single number like it is in this IBISWorld report, that you are able to figure out how did they make that calculation to get to that particular number. So what about submarkets? Well, IBISWorld breaks it down two ways. Both are okay, or you could report and discuss each. One of the ways that they describe the breakdown of the submarkets is long-term residential customers, commercial clients, and short-term residential customers. The other way that they break this down is by the products that they offer. And that is they make money with delivery fees, they make money with storage fees, and they make money with merchandise fees. And once again, if you go back and look at the pre-pandemic numbers on this, you would find that these percentages, in both cases, change rather dramatically pre-pandemic compared to this 2020 data, which is pandemic year data. So in summary, you can certainly answer most of the questions for the industry analysis report using IBISWorld. Once again, good luck.